Good morning and welcome to the October 24th meeting of the Citizen Oversight Board. We're looking forward to talking with everyone today. We are going to be joined by Sheriff Diggins and have a good conversation, I think, with him. A few announcements, and I feel like, I've been saying this for a long time. There continue to be 2 open seats on the board that need to be filled. We're approaching 2 years on one of them. So it's really important for community members to express interest, but more important for, in particular, the mayor to complete his requirement to keep our board full and at full capacity. City Council also has an appointment, but that has not been open for very long. And I see your note, Daniel, the mayor's side will begin accepting applications in November. So they closed it and then opened it again.
Correct.
Okay.
What's the status of the city council application work?
City council is currently accepting applications until November 2nd.
Great. Okay.
And just for the record, they had done interviews and then they did not.
Correct. They went through a recruitment cycle and have reopened applications for a second cycle.
Thank you.
Okay. A couple of other things worth noting. On the 13th of October, the COB and some community organizations hosted a forum with the Latino community, which was really well attended. And thank you for organizing that community engagement committee and Rufina in particular. Looking forward to more engagement like that in the future. It was, I thought, a highly productive event and lots of good questions and engagement from the audience. Additionally, just a quick note from me. I'm sitting on the city's surveillance task force, which was convened in response to some findings about the city's use of flock cameras. So just a note of context, there's plenty of news media out there, but in Colorado, it's illegal for state and local authorities to share information with federal authorities. And it became known that that local information had been shared with federal authorities by means of flock. In the end, it turns out that our configuration in Denver was not correct. And so we were subscribed to a national network that we shouldn't have been. Any number of other things are proving to be problematic about that arrangement. So if folks recall, the flock contract was up for discussion in city council. It was then reconfigured to an amount that is less than what requires council approval. I've been looking at some procurement things recently in city documentation, and that is not exactly allowable under city procurement law. So there's a little bit of concerns emerging there. City procurement law says, anything 500,000 or over needs to go to city council, but you also need to review with your city attorney anything in the 480 or 490 range, just so you don't end up with a lot of contracts being rerouted. You also cannot split a contract. And so you couldn't say $1 million contract, we're going to have a $500,000 contract and a 500,000 or a 490 and 490 under the limit to avoid going through council. What's happened recently is the city has re-signed a $0 agreement with Flock to keep cameras running. That's of course concerning because there's a lot of controversy about those cameras. So why we would, in the middle of that controversy, sign a new contract seems strange. In general, concerns about this include, breaking the law, sharing information, as part of a national surveillance network, privacy concerns, the amount of data and the means of sort of protecting that data. There is AI enablement, and what are those, algorithms being used for? How are people being protected against, bias, et cetera? There have been a lot of claims made by the CEO that seem not to be true in our data. and other concerns. In the meantime, the city has also signed on to another $0 agreement for Flock to run autonomous AI-enabled drones with the police department, which I will just highlight. We had many conversations with the chief as part of our meetings here, and never once did the chief mention a third party running the drones, and never once was it discussed that those drones would be autonomous. That's a very different paradigm and framework than police officers flying drones near where they are. And so just want to highlight that to the community, that there certainly are many concerns there, and a different set of information than what the COB itself was provided in our many discussions. Rufina, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I'm just really confused about $0 agreements. How does that, I mean, without getting into, I guess, a lot of weeds, but what is that? What does that mean?
Basically, it means that the company is giving the city work for free.
And that doesn't ring kind of weird to people?
In some jurisdictions, I'll say it's actually illegal to have $0 agreements.
Yeah.
At the state level, it's not something that's particularly welcomed because it comes with other
Right,
statements.
exactly. Yes, there
But it
seems
is
a bit of
legal in Denver.
bribery or fraud. I mean, not bribery in this typical sense, but it's sort of like a quid pro quo scenario. I owe you now for something, that's not being upfront about the costs, et cetera. So that's not considered inappropriate in Denver right now because they're doing it twice, I guess.
Yeah, as far as I understand, it's allowable under city rules.
I'll just say it's framed as an extension of a contract rather than a new contract that's $0.
Sure. But the Flock is a $0 pilot.
The drone, yeah,
Sorry, the
drones.
drones is a $0 pilot.
Okay. Okay. So now what is our, okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to disturb your.
No, I mean, I think we could have a whole meeting on this topic. I think it's really, really scary, actually. Autonomous drones is like, sort of dystopian future. AI-enabled autonomous drones is sort of like well out there in terms of a very different paradigm than what we had been talking about with the police department. Flock has proven to be sort of a sketchy actor, to be honest. And so to have a contract with a sketchy actor that the community is concerned about for things that are sort of like pretty far out there in terms of technology, to me seems like not quite clear how we got here. And I think, I myself am losing a little bit of sleep about this right now.
So, Julia, what are the plans afoot between the city council and the task force regarding these contracts?
Well, I will say the task force was surprised at the re-signing or the signing of this extension. The task force has been meeting for a couple of months now, and we were not informed in advance of this discussion. And it was, something we found out through a quick meeting and a press release. Doesn't feel like genuine engagement if you formed a task force around this and then you just do it anyway. So, I think the community is upset. There was a community meeting this week about this topic. I think there will be continued engagement. I know a number of the city council members are not feeling great about this either. And so I think, at least for my purposes, bridging the gap between the task force and the COB, I'll keep raising it here, I think, until we get a little bit more clarity on what's what. I also think when we meet with the chief next, right, we've been focusing a lot on EBD, but frankly, EBD pales in comparison to in my concerns about like dystopian future technology that's being deployed in our city. So
the hits just keep coming.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, this feels sort of like a distraction tactic for the thing that was actually even more problematic. So yeah, I feel concerned. Tamisha, I see your hand is up.
She was helping me out. There were two of her, and she was identifying which one was the real her.
Okay, that is the her of her. Okay, any Other questions on Flock? You know, I think will be some more sign-on letters and things like that that emerge. And so as the board is interested in that, I will pass that information on. You know, like EBD, it's sort of a changing paradigm all the time. So it's hard to sort of know where we stand. But
And I guess there's no any kind of response. Well, what is our ability to make any here? I'm sorry.
what's our ability to what?
To affect the decision.
Yeah. I guess I would have thought that in the formation of a task force, which has like, you know, many very senior stakeholders on it, that would be a good place to engage on behalf of the mayor's office, but that didn't happen. So I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay.
It seems less good. It could be using very particular words at this time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Any other board announcements or mentions? Okay. I would love approval of the minutes from the September 26th meeting, and I was largely out of that meeting, so I will be abstaining. But we have a quorum here, so we should be okay.
Julie, I just wanted to jump in.
Yeah.
9 News presented a piece, I think it was either last night or this
Last night I
morning.
saw it, yeah.
There's a University of Washington study on flock that has now prompted I think it's the governor of Washington to review the contract and could be in violation of their laws as well. So I think, I believe it was issued this week. So I haven't had a chance to try and find it and download it yet, but
Yeah, I can send it around. I got a copy. And so happy to do that. Oh, okay. Okay. So let's just take a note, Daniel, if you wouldn't mind on that action item. And then, sorry, Daniel is telling me that it's the October 10th, right? Because it was just 2 weeks ago, not September, meeting minutes. So for folks who are in that meeting, if I could have a motion to approve.
I move the minutes of the October 10th meeting be approved.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Karen.
Great. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Great. Well, let's move forward to Sheriff Diggins. Sheriff, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I know we sent some questions in advance, and we've got a lot of other ones, I think, on our minds. So if you want to begin with some introductory remarks and start to work through the questions, that'd be great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, board, and good morning to the community watching as well. First, want to begin, as I generally do, with thanking the men and women of the Denver Sheriff's Department who show up every single day, 365 days a year, to serve the citizens of the city and county of Denver. They love what we do. We love what we do. And so it's our privilege to be a part of this agency. I'll begin with the first question. On June 30th, Vincent Chacon died in his cell with reported evidence indicating he was likely murdered by his cellmate. In a recent Denver Gazette article, Mr. Chacon's mother alleges that she was not informed about her son's death for more than 30 hours. Can you speak to the standard procedures around notifying next of kin? First, let me begin by again extending our heartfelt condolences to the family and loved ones of Mr. Chacon. Because this incident is in litigation, I am very limited in the answers that I can give to any questions surrounding that incident. I will say, generally speaking, that our procedures call for next of kin notifications to be conducted by the Office of the Medical Examiner, and that's also the protocol for the Denver Police Department. The next question, and because these are in the same series, I'll just go to the next question. Does it appear as though that notification process was properly followed in this case? As this matter is a litigation, I cannot respond at this time, and that question is better answered by the Office of the Medical Examiner. Madam Chair, I will pause there for additional questions. Karen, good morning to you.
Good morning. In reference to the in-custody deaths, how many have there been in 2025?
In 2025, I believe we have had 8 thus far.
What operational protocols have been changed in response to these occurrences?
That's a very good question. We take all deaths in custody seriously. Whenever there is a death, we have a psychological review that we conduct with Denver Health and Hospital. There hasn't been one significant pattern or practice that we've noticed regarding the deaths. And so we're keeping an eye on things to see if that does occur. So currently we haven't changed any practices relative to the deaths in custody. We do book 23,000 people through our system each year. And although this number is higher than in previous years, we don't contribute it to one specific circumstance or another, but we, along with Denver Health, are taking all of the deaths in our custody very seriously.
Can you say how many typically occur in a year?
The average for the past few years, Madam Chair, was given to the COB, I believe, during the last quarterly meeting. It's generally about 5 to 6 per year.
Oh yeah, okay, thanks.
So this number is slightly higher than that, but it's something that we absolutely are aware of and taking very seriously.
Okay. Go ahead, Rufina.
Good morning, Rufina.
Good morning, Sheriff Diggins. So of the 8 deaths that have occurred, some were due to overdoses. This one was due to murder, alleged murder. What other reasons have happened in the jail for this year, these deaths?
Generally speaking, they're medically related deaths, and those vary. And I believe that we provided that list to Daniel after our last meeting to be sent to the board.
And Daniel, where would we find that in our drive?
Happy to get those to you.
Okay, thank you. And are these cause of deaths typical for the 5 to 6 that you say per year happen?
Generally speaking, they are. What I will tell you is the unfortunate circumstance of addiction in our community has the people that are coming into our custody in probably the worst physical shape that I've seen in all of my 31 years, very brittle health. Denver Health does everything they can to try to help them through withdrawal, to help them with their addictions by placing them on medicated assisted treatment. So we're going to continue to work towards that. In previous years, there have been other types of deaths. I hesitate to talk about suicides because that's something that no one wants in our custody, but happens in jails as well. We haven't seen that this year, but they vary based on the circumstances.
And the list that you sent us, did it include demographics, sir?
Daniel, I don't believe that it did. I think it was
No,
just
sir.
very general in nature.
Correct.
Would that be something that we could see?
I will circle back to get that list and we'll add that information to that list as well.
It would be helpful, female, male, race, demographic, and also age, please.
I believe age was on there. If not, then I will add that: female, male, race, and age. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Sheriff,
Yes, ma'am.
Is the psych ward still up and running within the system?
We no longer run what you and I knew many, many years ago as the psych ward at Denver Health. There is a mental health section of Denver Health where someone who's not in custody could be taken after release to be placed on perhaps an M1 hold. For us, we have restrictive housing, which includes folks that may have mental health conditions, and they're managed through our process by Denver Health, mental health and behavioral health team, along with some oversight by our chief of mental health services, Dr. Nikki Johnson, and the crisis response team. So it's very, very different than the way that it used to be.
Okay. Are issues regarding addictions dealt with in that area, in that housing area?
Absolutely. Oftentimes, folks have co-occurring disorders. They may have a mental health condition along with an addiction to narcotics or alcohol, and we attempt to treat both of them simultaneously.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Seeing no other questions, I'll move on to question 2. City ordinance mandates a $7 charge for people in custody to make medical requests or kites. We understand that money is not required up front, but is assessed as a negative charge on their account balance. Are you able to provide the number of medical kites that are submitted each month on average? In the third quarter of 2025, there were an average of 2,610 medical kites scheduled per month. At the county jail, that was 876 medical kites per month, and at the Downtown Detention Center, it was 1,734 medical kites per month. What is the average number of medical kites filed per person in custody? It's 1.2 kites per month. Of the population that has filed at least one medical kite, what is the average number of medical kites that are filed? Of the 6,554 individuals in custody in quarter 3 for 2025, 2,389 of them filed at least one medical kite, which is 36%. Of that population that has filed at least one medical kite, there was an average of 3.3 medical kites filed per person. And there's 2 more additional questions in there, but because that's a lot of information, I'll pause there, Madam Chair, to see if there are any additional questions for A or B.
Thanks. I feel like we accidentally gave you like a business school entry question too, which is like doing math live in a group. So thank you for that information. So what we're to understand then is that a third of the people who are in your custody file a medical kite, and most of those people file more than one medical kite. So that I think that's really helpful information. Going backwards a little bit, I can't remember. I know we've talked about it on the complaint side, non-medical kites, but how are we in terms of the price of those kites compared to other jurisdictions, or the use of a price to pay for that?
We are on the lower end and probably the lowest that you would see in a jail of our size and in our state. We work very hard along with partnering with Denver Health to ensure that all the fees that we are required to charge are as low as they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll move on to the next question. Is this charge the only reason someone might be allowed to maintain a negative account balance? No, there are other charges that may occur if a person is in custody, if they're found to have destroyed jail property. In the inmate handbook, it specifically states if the Conduct Adjustment Board finds you guilty of destroying or damaging jail property, which happens sometimes in jail, sometimes frequently, depending on the pod, you will be charged monetarily for its replacement. Those items and the prices are listed below. They include the inmate handbook, the inmate ID, which is $5. A mesh bag is $15. A blanket is $15. A mattress is $100. So that price range varies. There are probably about a dozen items that folks could be charged for. So in addition to being charged for the medical kites, if they destroy jail property, that could occur as well. Last question in that series, are you able to provide us with the average number or proportion of people who are released from custody each month with a negative account balance? We don't track this information, and we don't collect from people when they're released either.
So you don't send collections after people if they have negative balances. Okay.
No, we don't.
A quick question on the previous information, and then I have some follow-up questions. If I'm like having chest pains and I need medical attention, do I file a kite first, or does a nurse come and then you charge me $7 for that visit?
No, if you're having chest pains, we get you to the medical unit as soon as possible, or we will call a nurse to respond to your area and begin immediate medical intervention, to include calling paramedics, having the Denver Fire Department respond, and then if it's necessary, getting you to Denver Health. You may or may not be charged following that incident. The likelihood of you being charged is not there, but that's a question generally for Denver Health, depending on the patient's medical history.
Okay. And so if there's like a very visible medical issue, kites are not necessary, but like if I'm feeling like I'm starting to sniffle, or like my ankle is hurting, or then I file a kite and then somebody comes when they can or something?
That's correct. You'll be called to the medical unit for a private assessment, or if you're in one of the housing units, you can present, very good question, Rafina. You can present that medical kite to a medical person, because they come through multiple times a day and they may begin to ask you questions, hopefully, or generally in private, regarding what's going on with you, and then they may call you down for some additional work. It's kind of like all of us going to see our private medical provider. It's similar in service. Kite is a term that goes back decades in jails and prisons across America that essentially just means a form that someone sends inside of the facility to request services or to ask questions. So there are medical kites, there are kites that can be sent to food service, there are kites that can be sent to records. Sometimes people want to get a phone number out of a property, they write a kite down to the property section. So kite is just a message form. It comes from the idea that someone would place that piece of paper on a string and then it would be kited through the facility many, many years ago until it was routed to the right person.
Like a paper airplane.
Exactly. Back in the day. Today, it's very, very different. In fact, on our tablets, we now have electronic kites. It's been very helpful for us as well.
Thank you. That helps to understand what is being talked about. Electronic kites.
Do you feel like, let me just like give a scenario. So I'm booked in the jail. I've got like $20 on my, or maybe, $7 on my commissary account, and I'm a smoker. And so like what I really want is a pack of cigarettes. Do you feel like there is, but I'm also like maybe having a medical, event. Is there a circumstance where, and do you feel like there's any trending that would suggest people are making choices between, comfort and medical care with the available money? Do you feel like there's a case where, because there's a charge, people don't seek care? Anything to that regard?
I don't think so. I think generally speaking, when folks are in true medical need, they know that if they don't have any money in the books, that they don't get charged.
That's provided as part of the sort of like inmate handbook?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. we never refuse anyone medical care. And so if they feel like there's a need to seek that, then they do. And the nurses are in the pods every single day. They make multiple rounds, they're dispensing medication. All of the people that come into our custody, as soon as they're going through the intake process, they get a full medical screen. When they go upstairs, Denver Health staff is in every single pod throughout both of our jails every single day to ensure that folks are receiving proper medical care.
Okay. Another question is like, okay, I come in with diabetes, you know that as part of my medical screening, and you know my insulin's off, and we're spending a lot of time adjusting all of that. Am I making medical kite after medical kite to try and get that support? And then a similar question to like, if I'm on MAT, how does that interact with the kite system?
Great questions, Madam Chair. No, if they're diabetic, Denver Health checks in with them sometimes multiple times a day, depending on how brittle their diabetes is. They do finger sticks. They do checks for glucose. They ensure that people receive their insulin. They're actively managing that person's medical care by putting them on a list to ensure that if they need to come down to be seen for that, that's the case. If there's someone who I believe it's called a type 1 diabetic, where they only have to take a pill, they make sure that they receive that while they're in their pod. So it depends on the severity of their condition. So depending on whatever health condition the person has, Denver Health has a standing protocol to ensure that they receive treatment every single day.
Go ahead, Rufina.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the $7 charge to make the medical request. I'm not sure I'm clear on that. So is it that they'll only be charged $7 for getting medical treatment, or is it, according to the way I read it, to make the request?
It's when they receive the treatment. It's
Ah,
kind of like you and I. I went to the doctor the other day. After I saw my doctor, they told me, well, today, because this is covered, you don't have a copay. Sometimes there are, sometimes there are not. So it's after the person receives the treatment.
okay. And so if that's the case, then I've got a $7 charge for having talked to the nurse. And then is there a $7 charge for medication that is being provided, and perhaps a $7 charge for any lab work that was required, or is it all encompassed in that $7?
All encompassed in that $7. No fee for the medication, no fee for the lab afterwards, only to go see the nurse, be assessed, and then they will decide what the protocol for treating your condition is.
And then, so I could accumulate a number of charges, though, depending on my physical condition when I'm in the jail. At what point does it get paid, sir?
It comes out off of their account when after the visit is complete.
But how did I get money into that account? Sorry for this basic question, but
That's a good question. Yeah.
No, you don't have to ever feel like any question is not a good question. I love being able to educate you all as well as the public. At the same time, folks either can come in with money before they come into our custody, or their family and friends can place money into their account. In general terms, it's called putting money on someone's books. And so if they have money when they're here and they want that to go on their account, we'll be happy to put that in their account. If their family wants to send them money once or multiple times, or friends, that can occur as well. And that happens very, very often.
I see. Thank you.
You're very
Go
welcome.
ahead, Alfredo.
Good morning, Alfredo.
Good morning, Sheriff. So along that same thread, you mentioned earlier that when somebody's released with a negative balance, you don't send collections after them, which I could understand and appreciate the sentiment behind that. But then there's this deficit or this debt that then keeps accumulating on y'all's books. Um, how is that then paid, or is this constantly being like rolled up into more debt? How do you carry this in your books? And at the end of the day, how does this get paid for?
It comes out of our general fund budget. Generally, it's people who are indigent that aren't able to pay. And we certainly don't want to create some sort of debtor's prison for folks that are leaving our custody. So we count it as a cost of doing business.
Gotcha. So
Do you
this
have
is
a sense? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Alfredo.
just clarifying, this is something that you already carry in your budget. This is something that you're already anticipating. What is that trending like?
I'll check with Denver Health to see if we know how many of those have gone unpaid. I'll ask our HSA to see if we have what that figure for perhaps the third quarter for 2025 is.
Yeah, and if you could give us also like a historical trend of what that is looking like, I think will help us understand too who's going through, who's coming in and out of the jail.
Okay, I'll look into that.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Sheriff.
Okay.
I think I'd be interested on the commissary side too. It's just like, how much of this is actually useful versus just procedural, right? Like if you're losing money on it every year anyway, like why are we doing all of this accounting and, coconut shells from here to there if it's not really paying for itself. And then so I'm arrested, I am in your custody, I amass some sort of balance, I'm released, I come back into your custody. Is that balance there for me again? And then if I'm in your custody with that balance, what are you doing about it?
If you come in and you have money that is on your books, we could extract that from your account knowing that you had a previous balance with us.
Okay.
And again, there are some folks that come into our custody that have a lot of money placed on the books and they buy a lot of commissary. So of course we want to be able to be good stewards of city dollars, and we would recoup those costs.
Sure. Okay. And then do you like have a whole accounting team who's like running all, it seems like a lot of accounts payable, accounts receivable type activities. And so is that people or is it some system? Yeah. Okay.
It's people, and we have an amazing accounting team. Our budget is $174 million, and they do amazing job in helping us ensure that we're meeting our targets, that we're good stewards of the people's dollars. And we work with them every week to track where we're going. In fact, we had our monthly budget meeting yesterday, and we were able to project where we're headed going into the end of 2025.
Okay. And that 174 million is not commissary related. That's your total budget.
That's our total general fund budget.
Okay.
Commissary is generally folks have to have money on their accounts to pay for the commissary, but we have a commissary contract with them.
Okay. Thank you. Otherwise, that's a lot of ramen. Okay. Let's move on.
Okay, question 3. Last month, we heard a public comment from community member Regan Benson, who had spent some time in custody at the Downtown Detention Center at the start of that week. She expressed concerns about a number of issues that we would like you to respond to, including first, overcrowding, in which 3 women were housed in a 2-bed cell, requiring her to sleep on the floor. Now, this may have been a temporary occurrence for classification purposes, as we sometimes have a rise in the number of women brought into our custody. I will mention that Ms. Benson was in our custody for less than 24 hours. We recently have changed the intake housing pods for women in custody to an open person and 8-person room, so this will not happen again in the future. Next, poor sanitation, in which they were unable to throw away their trash or get cleaning supplies to clean their cell, which she described as filthy. We disagree with her assessment regarding cleaning and cleanliness, as Denver deputy sheriffs take great pride in keeping their pods squared away. Many of you have been on tours of the jail and have seen the conditions. I invite you to come unannounced, and I'd be happy to walk any of you through the facility personally. Cleaning supplies are given to people in custody at least twice a day. In intake housing, it's a little more restricted compared to long-term housing, and when they're let out of their cells, they're welcome to throw trash away at that time. Next, insufficient access to feminine hygiene products. We take particular exception to this allegation, as the Denver Sheriff's Department has been at the forefront in ensuring that women have ample access to free feminine hygiene products. In fact, we served as the model jail when former State Representative Leslie Herrick brought the legislation to the State House, which would require free care for women, and she asked me to testify as such. And when I was the president of the American Jail Association, it was one of the central tenets of my platform titled Gender Equity in Jails Across America, which was adopted by the Department of Justice, National Institute of Corrections. I also had our grievance incident review team research any grievances filed regarding this topic in the last quarter, and we had no person in our custody make such a claim. We're very proud of the work that we've done to be the model for ensuring that women have free feminine hygiene products. And I'll pause there before I move on to the next two parts of that question, Madam Chair. Rufina asked, how do they access these products? They're readily available in the pod for them to grab themselves, or they can go and request them from the deputies working in their pods.
And the asking for them sometimes is sometimes a barrier. So when you say they're available in the pod, could you describe the location, or is it in the bathrooms, or how does that work?
Multiple locations. They're in the bathrooms, they're in cabinets, and if the supply begins to run low, they can tell the deputy, hey, we need more products, and the deputies have access to them to ensure that they're kept stocked. In fact, sometimes they're utilized in ways that they're not intended for. If I took you to the women's housing unit today, you would see that sometimes they're used to be used as cushions on the rims of the toilets. They're so plentiful that they're sometimes not utilized for their intended purpose. But I can tell you, Rufina, for me, the barometer about whether or not we continue to make this a priority for us is our grievance system. And with us not having any grievances, I know that this is not the case for us.
Thank you.
It's something that we take very seriously.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Other questions on this topic?
Okay. Move on to the next one. She stated no access to a kiosk, tablet, or the inmate handbook at any time. Ms. Benson was in our custody less for 24 hours in an intake pod. If she would have stayed longer, she would have had access to the kiosk where the inmate handbook is located, or the tablets, as many of you saw when we went on the tour. The tablets are given to people who are bound over and stay in her custody. That's the reason that she didn't have access to those. And lastly,
Just a quick question on that. So at what point in a person's stay are they given access and information about those materials
If
typically?
she would have stayed in intake housing when she had her free time, so within a 24-hour period, you get free time. Every single person that's there is going to get free time. Come out, take a shower, make a phone call, access the kiosk. She would have been able to access that. She was only here for approximately 18 hours. So and some of that, a lot of that time was actually overnight.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move on to the last part of that question. Insufficient medical care. She claims insufficient medical care in which she was not given her blood pressure medication while in custody, despite being told by DPD that she could bring her medications with her and that they would be provided to her during her time in custody. Because of HIPAA, I'm not able to answer the question specific to Ms. Vincent. But what I can tell you is that if that information was shared with any person that they could bring their medication into custody and have access to it, that is not accurate in the sense that we, number one, have to verify that this person has a valid prescription. Denver Health has to do that. Second thing is, if someone has a bottle full of pills, there isn't any way that we're going to just automatically give that to them because it could be something else. As you all know, there are drugs on the street. Most of them are laced with fentanyl. Who knows what that person could be taking? But Denver Health takes every person's health care very seriously. And so they would verify their prescription, and they have a vast pharmacy system, which we in the jail also have access to. The 23,000 people who are come through our custody every single year have a multitude of medical conditions that Denver Health is able to treat with those medicines. And so Denver Health would begin to place a person who has any medical condition on the appropriate medicine to ensure that they remain healthy and that they go back to the community better than how they came to us. With that, Madam Chair, I will pause for questions. Okay, seeing none, I think that's the last of that series of questions. Madam Chair, you're still on mute.
I'm just talking to myself. I have a couple of other questions if board members do as well. One thing that has come to our attention is that based on, we get the departmental orders of discipline regularly, and we've noticed that there's been a drop this year in the number of deputies who've been disciplined with anything greater than a reprimand. And we know you don't control the entire process, but wondering if you have insights into sort of what may be at the root of that.
I think it is us finding ways to address the behaviors of staff collectively, along with the recommendations of the independent monitor that are appropriate for the violations. My hope is that we're seeing less serious infractions amongst staff, and we'll be keeping an eye on those trends to see how that goes over the next year or so.
Okay. And my last question, and turn over to board members, is obviously we're having a federal shutdown now, and typically facilities like yours receive a good amount of federal support. And so is that affecting you at all? And if so, how?
No, ma'am, we're not seeing any significant impact from the shutdown at this point. Our grants are intact. In fact, we had a meeting with budget yesterday, and it looks like things are still on track for us to still receive those dollars the way that they had previously been promised to us.
Other questions? Go ahead, Alfredo.
There you go. I know how to use the unmute button, I swear. So along those same lines, Sheriff, there's a lot of uncertainty happening at the federal level. There's a lot of social programs that are being cut for our most vulnerable neighbors. that we're going to see the blowback. We're going to see all of these consequences start rippling across our cities, that are bound to be seen and felt in the jails. Unfortunately, what steps are y'all taking to prepare for that?
Great question, Alfredo. I'll tell you. We try to connect people to services when they leave here, and to help them to get on their feet. We'll continue to try to be creative with those community partners that we work with, Second Chance Center, Servicios de la Raza, Tribe, and the others. And we'll be out in the community to support them in their efforts to continue to provide those services. We'll continue to make every effort to prioritize our budget to ensure that when people come here that they continue to receive the same services, and we'll be reaching into those community partners.
Y'all aren't anticipating any kind of overcrowding or any elevated numbers coming through?
At this point, there's no indication that we are going to see a rise in our count. If that does occur, we've had that happen before, and we will adjust accordingly. So my hope is that that wouldn't. I don't foresee the Denver Police Department doing things differently when it comes to vulnerable populations. They do a lot to try to deflect people from coming into our custody.
Thank you, Sheriff.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Rufina.
Okay, so this question has to do with the previous question of the discipline orders. I was curious, I saw you at Brother Jeff's town hall regarding our EBD conversation, and then at the Latino Community Forum. And other than supporting a fellow public safety leader, is there another reason why you would have interest in the EBD discussion? Are you curious about implementing such a program as well?
Thank you for that question, Rufina. I've been asked that question a couple of times. I am very curious about the implementation. I've shared before that I genuinely believe that Chief Thomas is one of the best chief executive officers of a law enforcement agency in the nation. We just hosted the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and I heard from countless leaders from across the nation of the same. I think that he has ideas that he's on the right track for. I'm certainly interested in the concerns from the community and the COB. And so we'll see how things go with the pilot project that he's going to put into place. But I'm also there to support him as well.
I understand. And the other question I have is, in terms of the staffing now, how much, I didn't quite understand the federal budget impact on the jail. How much do you receive in federal funding?
Our federal funding is geared towards programs and some medicated assisted treatment services that we provide. We're pass-through grants for JAG burn grants. And so none of our staffing is tied to federal funding. It's more so programmatic.
And if those programs then are not receiving those funds and the city can't make up the money, what do you see as the impact then?
If we weren't able to have those programs, then we would scale back some of those programs, but we would also become very creative about perhaps shifting resources and programs to ensure that we're able to continue to provide. So it's something that we keep an eye on. Currently, we're continuing to see those federal pass-through grants come into our coffers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if there are not other questions, I would like to get us to a public comment, and I see someone in the room with Daniel, and I saw a participant with or attendee with hand raised, and so I assume that attendee with hand raised is related to the sheriff being here, but I'd love to. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
Larry had a question.
Okay, go ahead, Larry.
Sorry, good morning, everyone. I put a question in the comments while you were speaking, Sheriff. I'll just read it out. How would you describe the current staffing situation within the department? And does the Denver Sheriff's Department currently have the capacity to operate safely and ensure policies and protocols are being followed?
Thank you, Larry, and good morning to you. The current staffing situation for the Sheriff's Department is one that is the parallel top priority. Safety and security, recruitment and retention are the Denver Sheriff's Department's top priorities. They have been for the past few years. We're currently at about 65% staffing. If you count our recruits, we're at 67% staffing. As has been reported this week and before, our deputies and sergeants are required to work 24 hours of overtime to ensure that we have adequate staffing in our jails. And we're seeing a rise in the number of people that want to become Denver deputy sheriffs. I have an academy in right now that has about 30 people. We're going to start another one in December that we're looking to have the same target. We have to begin to outpace our attrition, which has become impacted by a wave of retirements. People that started 25 and 30 years ago when I started are now beginning to become eligible to leave. So in addition to the normal attrition that we have the added attrition of people that are retiring from the department. As far as safety and security is concerned, we do have the staffing to ensure that our pods and other areas of the jail, the courthouse, the other duties that we perform as a department are adequately staffed. Of course, we keep an eye on all deputy sheriffs and professional staff members because some of them are in spaces where we've had reductions in staffing as well. And so we're keeping an eye on all of our staff. We prioritize their wellness. We believe that the Denver Sheriff's Department shows up every single day and that things are as safe as they can be. And I saw a follow-up question, 24 hours per month is the requirement. There are a number of deputies that go above that. That would average out to about 6 hours per week. There's some deputies that choose to go to our maximum overtime, which is 32 hours per week. So we keep an eye on them to make sure that they're not burning themselves out. Those are some deputies that choose to step into those roles and do that. Sometimes deputies are required to stay through what we refer to as mandatory overtime, and then others are volunteering for overtime as well. The same thing for our supervisors.
You said 32 hours per week, but you meant 32 hours per month?
No, some deputies are maxing out at 32 hours per week. But those are those deputies that are volunteering to max out at those hours.
That's on top of a standard work week, which would be 40, 45 hours or?
It will be 41.37 hours, I believe it is, with their briefing time. And so when they begin to get to that max number, and this is something that is common across law enforcement, sheriff's departments, and police departments. Sometimes you hear people working what you call off duty, and there are off duty requirements. Well, that's the same thing for us. You can either work an off duty assignment or you can work overtime, but it's a maximum of 32 hours per week. It is the same thing. I believe the Denver Police Department's hours are probably about the same.
Okay. And is there a max per year? Because like 70 hours per week is like a lot over the course of many, many months.
32 hours times 52 weeks would be their max.
Okay.
This is a follow-up question, Sheriff. Has the staffing situation in any way led to a loss of rights or privileges? Has it affected inmates in any way?
It has not. We have not been subject to any litigation that has been successful in claiming that, although there are some suits where that allegation has been made, none of them have gone through the courts to demonstrate that that was actually affirmed by the courts. This is also, let me just add this. This is something that jails and prisons across America are dealing with. I know that because I sit on national boards, as you know, and it is still a topic of significant conversation, along with the introduction of contraband issue. Those two are neck and neck for challenges for jails and prisons across America. We're hoping that we can begin to see some significant gains over the next couple of years. We're going to do everything that we can to continue to recruit good people to become members of the Denver Sheriff's Department. For the community that is watching, if you're interested in serving in a great organization, please go to denvergov.org/sheriff. You'll be able to get in touch with one of our recruiters. We would love to have you come and serve alongside of us.
Thank you. Any more questions from the board? Okay, let's move to public comment. And Daniel, if we can allow the person who is there with you to kick us off. And Sheriff, if you don't mind staying a little bit longer, I'm not sure if some of the discussion is with you or otherwise.
Sure.
Thanks.
Just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Alexis. I'm currently a resident of Denver. I have a couple questions for the sheriff. So number one, how does the city define public safety in the context of peaceful protesters? And how is that standard upheld during the No Kings protest on October 18th, 2025?
First of all, Alexis, thank you for coming to the forum and for answering the question as well. The city defines the process of protecting the public during protests such as No Kings as allowing people to exercise their First Amendment right to assemble. The Denver Police Department, the Denver Sheriff's Department, and other law enforcement agencies take our role and responsibility in protecting the public and protecting the rights very seriously. And as you may have seen, we take measures to ensure that things are as peaceful as can be and allow the thousands of people, literally, that were here in the city to exercise that right. During those protests, I believe there were only 12 people that may have been arrested during that time out of the thousands of people who were downtown to protest. And I think those were folks who were alleged to have broken the law. But I think the rest of the folks saw a very protective and peaceful response from law enforcement, specifically led by the Denver Police Department and other agencies assisting them.
Okay, and just to follow that up, what are the current Denver Police Department protocols for crowd control at peaceful demonstrations?
Although I would love to answer that question on behalf of my friend Chief Thomas, that's probably a question that's better suited for Chief Thomas to answer on behalf of the Denver Police Department.
Okay. What actions are being taken to ensure that the police use of force decisions do not endanger peaceful residents or bystanders?
Again, specific to the Denver Police Department, I would say, bless you, Alfredo, I would say that question is better answered by Chief Thomas, but I'll tell you, generally speaking, we have a significant number of policies, procedures, rules, protocols, and training in place to ensure that when force is utilized, that it's done in accordance to the law, to the Constitution of the state of Colorado and the charter and ordinances of the city and county of Denver, which direct law enforcement, the Denver Police Department and the Denver Sheriff's Department in the work that we do.
Okay. Sorry, I just have a couple more. So has an independent review board or civilian oversight committee examined the police response that night?
For the No Kings protest?
Yes, sir.
Not that I'm aware of. However, the independent monitor is on this call today. And if she wished to, she has the authority to do an inquiry regarding that. So I would say that's probably a question for the monitor.
Monitor, anything you want to say about that? If there's been any open investigations into the police treatment during the No Kings protest?
I'm not aware of any recent complaints, so we will look for complaints that come in from the protests, and so far, I haven't received any. We have received complaints about previous protests, and we are looking at those.
So how is the city ensuring accountability for the officers who may have violated policy or endangered protesters' safety through the misuse of tear gas? And I want to be very clear that the misuse of tear gas on peaceful protesters and bystanders surrounding them.
Alexis, I would answer that question the same way. We have not just policies and procedures, protocols and training, which guide us to what officers, law enforcement officers should be doing. I'll add that there are also rules and regulations regarding body cameras, and we're all required to activate our body cameras in those situations, which would help to capture the event. And again, if there are specific instances that you like to bring to the monitor's attention, I'm sure she would be happy to investigate those, or you can file them directly with the Denver Police Department for Denver Police personnel, or with the Denver Sheriff's Department for our personnel.
Okay. And then what steps will be taken to prevent chemical agents from being used near residential areas, businesses, or vulnerable individuals in the future?
The chemical agents are only deployed when absolutely necessary. Those chemical agents, if you're talking specifically about regarding perhaps tear gas or other chemicals, they're subject to the wind. So they may blow towards a business or another area when they're deployed. There's really no way to control that. What they're meant to do is to address the crowd that the canister is deployed in front of. But as far as the measures to control them, that's kind of hard to do.
Okay. And then were medical teams or safety officers present during the No Kings protest to assist those affected by tear gas exposure like myself?
That is a question that is better answered by Denver Health and the chief paramedic. So I would defer to them to be able to answer that question. And again, if you want to send your concerns to the independent monitor, I know that she will be happy to look into them thoroughly.
And then I'm just gonna do two more ones real quick.
And if I can just add to that, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Complaints to the Office of the Independent Monitor do not necessarily need to come from the person who was injured or suffered what they feel was a violation of the policy. It can be done by anyone, including bystanders, and can be done anonymously as well.
I think too, it would be helpful. It sounds like a good number of these questions really should be directed at the police department. And so Danielle, if we can follow up at the end of the meeting with information for when the chief is coming on, and we can have this conversation more directly, that would be good too, I think. Keep going though, please.
Okay. And then if the chief only knows why the police officers deployed tear gas in areas where residents, children, and businesses were present, rather than targeting isolated threats. What I mean by this is when we were sitting down peacefully with our hands up, no violence was provoking the police whatsoever. Nobody was in their face. We have full video of this. after they told us to degroup, and as soon as we were turning our backs to them, why did they still deploy tear gas? And then as we were running 5 blocks down, why were they still chasing us, deploying tear gas to the point where we had to scream at people inside their houses to close their windows who weren't even a part of the protest?
Yeah, I would have the same response. Those are questions better answered by Chief Thomas.
Okay. And then will we be able to release the audio, the police body cams, and the report for our community? Or I mean, like, I know I had to go on and pay the $60 for all of that, but in the future, like, are we able to access all of this for free, or do we have to go through with paying that $60 and then on top of 50 pages, it extends to $42 an hour, which I know this report is going to be well over 50 pages because it has to include all of the SWAT officers and stuff like that. So how can the community of Denver, if they don't have those resources to provide the $60 and then probably hundreds on top of that, how are we able to get that information shared to the public without paying?
Again, those are questions which are better answered by Chief Thomas because they're specific to the Denver Police Department.
Monitor Castle, do you have, it's been a while since I've looked at sort of what you have to pay for versus what you can get and how that works. Do you have any insight into that or information?
So if someone gives us a Cora, I think that's the standard city fee is $40 an hour for accumulating the information and providing it. With regards to the police department, I know they also have a civil liabilities unit, and they have a records unit. I can't speak to exactly how they treat those kinds of requests.
But if you are making a claim that you were harmed, you still have to make a Cora request, or there's a separate process for getting information related to your claim?
I believe you don't get the information. You still have to get the information through the Department of Safety.
Okay, and that only comes through a Cora. There's no secondary process in the case of
I honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can follow up for more information. Daniel, it looks like you were popping into the square.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, so there's Cora requests, or I guess with criminal justice, it's a slightly different act, but it sort of colloquially called Cora. But there was also the Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act, under which if a complaint of misconduct has been filed, audio and video footage, not paper records, but audio and video footage is required to be released in certain circumstances.
Okay.
But that would require
it's currently an open legal issue. I think the city of Boulder's has a lawsuit about whether or not charges whether or not fees can be charged in association with those requests. So that's sort of actively, no fees are mentioned in the law.
But you have to make the claim first and then request the records.
A complaint first, and then you have to, I believe you have to cite the law when you make the request for it to even be considered in that route.
And Alexis, are you filing a complaint? Are you filing?
I already have, and then I also submitted that template of the letter with all of the codes. Then I got denied. They told me that they cannot, and that I have to go onto the website and pay those fees. So I'm just, the last two things I have to say, one is I'm confused on why I have to pay a lot of money as a broke college student for someone who got illegally harassed and abused by the police. And then two, just my closing statement would be, the people of Denver do demand transparency and accountability for all of the actions taken on October 18th. And please commit to releasing all the footage and after action reports within 15 days or 14 days and to cooperating with an independent civilian review. Because I've gone through the whole process and I'm still getting denied from the police to release the records. And I did pay the money and send in that letter, and then that letter consisted of the code saying that technically all of this should be free and it should waive any costs. And then they still directed me to go and pay those costs.
Okay.
So yeah. Just want that response.
So if you can make a complaint with the monitor's office, you could also make a complaint with our board. We're happy to take that. This is a matter that's come up in another context recently too. So I think it would be helpful, Daniel, if we can take an action item to follow up with the city attorney and really understand, you know, what this is, because we have recently had another constituent that came to us and said, I want the records released, and got denied. So let's take a follow-up on that if we could. And I just want to say I'm sorry that you had that experience. I'm sure it was harrowing and awful and painful, likely. So it's not what you get for your First Amendment right in America. You get to be
No,
there
and we
and express
shouldn't-
your views. No.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be having to, a lot of response I got was, you should have came prepared. Why would I come prepared if we weren't going to be violent? You know,
Right.
like, why would I bring gas masks? Why would I bring goggles? Why would I bring milk and saline solution when no one got violent? So
Yeah.
now I have to go next month in a gas mask and goggles. And my attorney, my civil rights attorney, even told me that will provoke the police even more. So we show up being prepared, we get annihilated with tear gas, but if we don't show up prepared, we still get annihilated. So I'm just like, and I'm from the Midwest, so I'm used to this police brutality surrounding protests. And I really thought Denver would be a safe place to protest without any of this. And it truly breaks my heart, like, that Denver is treating their citizens like this. Especially when we were sitting down. That's not an act of violence whatsoever. So yeah,
Thank
that's
you
all
for
I got.
sharing that.
If I may, Alexis, it is young, especially voices like yours, that continue to impact, you know, identify the problems of how law enforcement is responding and can impact how they respond. So please don't give up. If you have not filed a complaint specifically with the Office of the Independent Monitor, just go online, Office of the Independent Monitor, the complaint form is right there. And it will come to us. And thank you. Thank you for being diligent and vigilant.
Thank you.
I'll say too, I was at that protest with my children. They don't make gas masks that small. So what prepared
Right.
means in that context is absurd. And so that is not a fair assumption, I think. And I'm sorry that that was your experience. Are there other questions here? Or we had an attendee with their hand up. Regan, I see your hand is up. Would you like to speak in public comment? We can promote you. You can't answer because you're an attendee, so just come on over. Thank you. All right, thank you for joining us. Please go ahead.
Finally, thank you very much. That was really sad public comment from that young lady, and I'm really sorry to hear that. And welcome to Denver. I'm sorry that was your first introduction, and that's our Denver Police Department, and it only gets worse from here, young lady. So stay strong, please. I have been in court all morning, and it's because of this one dirty cop in DPD that keeps doing the same thing over and over to me. And so I'm due back in court here at noon. And so I've got to hurry and get through my public comment. I was prepared. Let's see, here it is. First of all, hello, Sheriff Diggins as well. Thank you for responding to some of those concerns that I brought to the board. I'd like to offer some response to those as well. Yeah, we'll skip that prepared public comment that I had sent Daniel in case I wasn't going to be able to be here. I'll follow up with another email to the board, updating you specifically on things that I've talked to you about as far as how DPD is allowing this same sergeant to seek a civil protection order against me and then went and got another warrant for me since I've seen you last time. That's where I just came from, was that warrant canceling hearing. And I think this ties into my public comment to you, Sheriff Diggins. You really should put your foot down in not allowing DPD to use your jail as its playground. It's problematic. And it's problematic, one, that's not the proper use of a jail. Two, you're already trying to be a mental health facility. So why do you continue to not be vocal with the Denver Police Department instead of referring to your friend, Ron Thomas, about the things he is doing to you and your staff in that jail? It's ridiculous. And you need to do something about it, because I know every time I go in that jail, you have to deal with a plethora of complaints. And luckily for you today, I'm not back in that jail because I have a serious medical condition where you don't want me in your jail, okay, for DPD's game playing. So you like hearing from the citizens, so stand up for us. Stand up for what is right for me, for one, your staff, two, and yourself, for a jail that you're supposed to run with efficiency. And as far as those things that you said didn't happen when I was in there, they happened. I was there. That jail cell was filthy. There were no cleaning supplies provided, even when asked. Okay. There was food everywhere in that cell. There were dust bunnies. There were flies, fruit flies everywhere. There was a woman right next to me crying about not getting feminine products. I heard it, not you. You weren't there. I went outside your jail and talked to other women who said that they weren't getting their feminine products either. I'm sure we're all just a bunch of liars, and you just get to run your jail and say that these things didn't happen, and it just automatically becomes fact. That is the problem in transparency. So let's see. The vast pharmacy system that you have. Please go back to the Denver Police Department, specifically Chief Rick Kyle, who put in an email to me that he had communicated with your staff about the seriousness of the medications that I needed. And he was told that I could bring those in their prescription bottles. So that's what I did. And your staff denied me. Sure, you've got to have processes to not allow contraband in that jail. I get it. So you've got a vast pharmacy system that you've got access to. Well, there you go. Have the pharmacist confirm the pills. It's pretty simple. So people don't die, and like have seizures and heart attacks and contract infections and stuff in your dirty jail. Let's see. There was no free time. Yeah, that's right. I was there for 18 hours. I was in a cell with 3 women. There were numerous other cells that had 3 women in them as well. They were all on lockdown. We were all on lockdown the entire time I was there. The cellmate that I had said she'd been on lockdown for 3 days. Nobody had use of the kiosks or the phones. I went to court, came back from court, was told I couldn't use the phone. Okay, so still didn't get an inmate handbook. What are we going on, like 8 years now of arrests? Still no inmate handbook. You at booking, you make us sign a piece of paper that says I have been given access to a paper copy of a handbook if I want it. Well, this time your deputies knew better than to make me sign that. They just slid the sheet over and said, here you go. And I said, where's my inmate handbook? Yeah, we don't do that here. Why do you guys keep doing this. Why? Like it doesn't happen. So nobody has the right to know what their rights are in jail until they've been in jail for over 24 hours. Seriously, Sheriff Diggins, please make that make sense. And how can anybody file a grievance if they're locked down in a cell 24/7? How can anybody ask for feminine products if they're locked in a cell 24/7? Let's see. You just said this. DPD does a lot to try to deflect people going into custody. You really stand by that?
I do. I do. And if you don't mind, because I'm not sure how many more additional statements you have, but
well, you talked, so do I get to talk? Why are you interrupting my public comment?
I'll pause. Go ahead.
Thank you. So at any rate, today's warrant got canceled because I'm such a violent criminal that I needed to go to jail, that the city said, oh yeah, okay, we'll cancel the warrant. So, Sheriff Diggins, I didn't go in your jail this time, but I'm sure there will be a next time. And next time when it happens, because of your friend, Ron Thomas, can you make sure that I have a clean floor to lay on? I'd be really grateful. Thank you. I have to go because I got to go to court. Thank you all for your time. I'll follow up with an email. I'll watch this meeting. I really appreciate all you board members taking the time to listen and understand we have some serious problems out here. So thank you.
Thanks for your feedback and for sharing your experience with us today. Okay, well, we cannot ask her questions. She is not here. Are there comments or thoughts that board members have in response to that, or Sheriff?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, I'd just like to respond. If those other women had any complaint, they could have shared them with the deputies at the time that they were in our custody, or when they were released, they could have let us know, or they could have said something to the independent monitor's office. I mean, there are a number of ways that people bring concerns to our attention. It happens all the time. I get grievances about the food. We get grievances about a number of things. We just talked about the medical grievances that we receive. We haven't received any grievances, any complaint, any hue or cry about anything that Ms. Benson talked about. So I'm hopeful that her next experience won't be as disappointing for her. I hope that she doesn't come back into custody again. I hope everything works out for her and whatever's going on with her and law enforcement.
Thank you, Sheriff. Monarch Castle, do you have matters to discuss in the public meeting?
We have a presentation from YOP that we're prepared to do.
Okay. Sheriff, if there are no more questions from board members, I think we are good for your time today. Thank you for extending it quite a bit, actually, and appreciate you engaging with us.
Happy to be here. I'll see you all soon in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Righty.
All right. So we have asked the monitor's office for some more information about one community engagement program run by the monitor's office for a number of reasons. One, it recently came up as part of the Latino forum that we ran last week. And so thought it would be useful for the community, and also it's been a while since the board itself has received information on that. And then monitor, since we are quite a bit longer in our public meeting, just can you say if there are matters that you hope to cover in executive session as well? And if so, we might keep the discussion here succinct, or if we're okay to sort of extend into that time.
We're okay to extend into that time.
Okay. Okay, great. Nicole, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. If you wouldn't mind maybe introducing yourself. It's been a while since we've had you on, and then would love to hear about what you're up to.
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Chair, and hello to everybody on COB. A couple of you I know much better than the others, and those that I haven't met yet, I look forward to actually being able to have a conversation with you in person. So I want to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to try to give you oh, I'm not turned on, Daniel. Good. There we go. So one of the things that we wanted to do, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So one of the things that we wanted to do was provide you with some background about our youth outreach project, under which our Bridging the Gap Kids and Cops program is run. And so I took this from the 2016 OIM, I believe it was the semi-annual report. And it just talks very briefly about how in 2014, the OIM recognized there was a pattern with youth, and especially youth of color, where there were seemingly very minor interactions, and because of miscommunication and misunderstanding, they were escalated to the point where youth were getting arrested or getting tickets. And so even though there were other entities in Denver that were trying to take steps to address this, nothing was really happening. And it was recognized by OIM that the youth needed skills and officers needed skills in order to improve their communication with each other. So the OIM sought out a JAG grant, and it was provided from the Colorado Division of Criminal Justice, and we started to develop and launch our Bridging the Gap program. In 2014, 2014 into 2015, there was extensive research that was completed, and in 2016, the program officially launched. So you can see this is like an infographic that's in the annual report that kind of gives you some initial data on the program. So I want to share another document with you. So part of establishing the program, we had extensive research that was done for us, and the PERF was actually involved too. So you can see their report on the inclusive approach to school safety, where we are mentioned in there, Denver specifically, and our programming. So you can see that the YOP and Bridging the Gap program was clearly thought out, and it was a plan in Denver that has influenced, I'm actually going to quote this, influence relationships for the city and county of Denver citizens, youth, and DPD officers in an extremely impactful and positive way. And so in order to substantiate this, I can tell you that before the program started in 2015, there were 37 officers that were trained in preparation for getting our program off the ground. And then you can see subsequent years how we've ended up training the number of officers that we did train. You can see COVID's impact in there. Then in 2024, we moved our officer training into the academy, where we're now able to touch all the recruits that come through. And so our total numbers through 2024 are 673 officers. And additionally, you can see how many youth and officers have participated in our forums. So you can see initially in 2016, there was 359 youth, 42 officers, 10 forums. And then again, subsequently, all the work that happened.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Nicole. Are you on a different slide? Because I think you're referring to information I'm not seeing on this slide.
Oh, it's just a document. Can you all see it?
I see the 35 officers participated in forums, so you're just updating.
Nicole, I think what probably happened is when you screen shared, you probably just chose your browser window instead of the screen itself.
Gotcha.
So you're still sharing that browser window.
Thank you.
And we didn't. If you made a change, we didn't follow.
Thank you, Daniel. You are my guru. How's that?
Great.
Thank you. Okay, so this is just what I was talking about. So here's our data that we've collected. So far we've had youth participants through 2024 at 2,288, 229 officers participating. We now have added the Denver Sheriff's Department Academy into our implicit bias training, which is part of what we do in the academy at DPD. We're following the same process that we follow. We've already trained 16 recruits. As Sheriff Diggins mentioned, there are 36, I believe, recruits in the current academy. We're already scheduled to present and train to them in December. And most importantly, we have the commitment from him to ensure that the training continues into 2026 with his assistance financially. And so I want to talk to you about the financial costs or the implications of our program. So our total budget for YOP, that this says will be eliminated, that was eliminated for 2026 is 111,000, almost 112. In 2025, we had a working budget of 2,000 per forum, and that amount covered location costs if we needed them, food, which we provide breakfast, lunch, and snacks and drinks with an average of 21, 23 per person, facilitator stipends, which we have one facilitator for every 10 youth, that's $75 a facilitator. Our lyric community fee is $250 per forum. Community presenters or consultants average $250 a forum. Our community MC, who really runs the entire program from start to finish, for 5 hours is $400, and we get a discounted rate. And then, of course, the DPD officer costs, we had an MOU with them for $53,700. And Liz, I don't know if you want to talk about how Chief has taken that cost over, but I do want to give you an update real quick. If I could just flip to this, excuse me, very last screen. So here are 2025 numbers that we have not finalized yet. But can you see my spreadsheet here? Okay.
Yes.
So you can see so far in 2025, year to date, we've had 166 youth participants. We've had 21 officer participants. We've had 5 facilitator participants. And then here are all our costs. We have 2 more forums coming up. So we have 8 forums so far. Here is 10. We had 1 just cancel and they want to reschedule for us. We did have 11. We have 2 what we call in the hopper. So we've really kind of picked up our numbers for this year. And we also follow our officer training, which this will be a negate for next year because Chief's going to pick up all the costs. But this is where we're sitting. So the fact that I wanted to emphasize to you is the work that we're doing, the number of youth that we're impacting. We do a pre and post survey with the youth and their trust in police, which is important, right? We're not asking them to become best friends. We're asking them to learn how to utilize the tools that we give them to make sure that they get home safely. So I know that an ask has been made to COB to see if there can be fiscal assistance to us to keep the program moving. And I know that Liz has a somewhat of an update financially for you, but these are the reasonings behind why we do what we do. And I'm sure you all have seen my staff, Juan Evangelista, Asio Mustafa. We all have very deep-seated commitment to this work because we're all people of color. We've all been impacted in one way or another by law enforcement, regardless of where we came from or what neighborhood. And so this is a program that we strongly believe in. And Liz, I'll turn it over to you.
Alfredo, I see you have your hand up. Would you like me to just kind of fill in first, or do you want to go ahead and ask Nicole the question?
Go ahead, Liz, and fill in. The question I think is mostly for you.
Okay. So what we had budgeted for our standard budget in the past has been approximately $2,000 per forum to cover all of the costs. And what we have done going forward is, because due to the budget cuts, the OIM's budget is predominantly salaries, services, costs for administration, costs for the office. So the only thing we had really to cut was YOP. We also cut our travel and training budget. Altogether, that was approximately $150,000. In trying to keep the program open, I am trying to estimate how much we would need to continue to put on programs for next year. And specifically, I'm targeting 12 programs. So one part of that is that Chief Thomas has agreed to cover the costs of the officers. Officers get paid to participate in the program at time and a half. And depending on their rank and the number of hours. So that cost is now going to be covered by DPD. The other costs we have are the ones that Nicole outlined. And what I have asked Nicole to do is to give me, how can we put these programs on at what are the bare bone costs in order to continue to put on these programs. And we have been able to get that number down to about $1,000 per forum. So if our target is 12 forums for next year, that's $12,000. We have made a request to the COB for half of that. I have looked at my budget, our remaining budget for 2026, and I feel confident in saying we can cover $6,000 towards YOP. It is difficult because we're not at the end of the year yet. There's a lot of costs that come in at the end of the year, but looking at the different budget buckets that we have, I feel confident I can come up with at least that amount.
Okay. Alfredo, I saw your hand was up, but then it was down. Question from you?
Yeah. So with such important work and such impressive metrics around ensuring that young people of color have trust in the police department, that they feel safe, that they know their rights, I'm curious as a whole why this program doesn't live, at least financially, within DPD. When the police budgets seem to be untouchable and keep coming, they keep going up and up. We're over here trying to scramble for $6,000 when, financially speaking, DPD has the money to do work that's going to make their lives easier in the long run. So to me, it just seems out of whack that we're over here talking about how to make up a $12,000 difference, $6,000, when DPD has the money to do this kind of work. And curious as to why this isn't already part of the training academy. Yeah, I don't know if it doesn't make sense to me, to be frank.
I had a similar question, which was like, I guess I'm confused on why we are paying to train their officers when it should be like officers should be trained on engaging with youth and like youth development and mental
this
health.
doesn't make
And so,
sense.
it doesn't quite square with me how we got here.
So a couple of things, and Nicole, if I may, just introductory. The program was created by OIM based upon that need. It was originally funded with grants. And once we were a few years into it, we were able to provide, data and research indicating that it was, an effective program. Then the city made it part of OIM. Bless you. Not every officer is, bless you, not every officer is a good fit for this program. I'm not saying that every officer should not go through this training. It's 5 hours of training. But not all officers wish to necessarily engage on that level with youth, may not want to, or even if they want to, they may not have the right fit, because these conversations are really in depth. These kids can share their experiences. It can get respectful but confrontational, and we have to be able to filter out the officers that are able to interact with kids and engage with that program. The other thing is that it comes from a neutral place. If it is run by the department, then it is a police program. I think that there's value in the fact that it is coming from the OIM. So it is not being endorsed. It is not a DPD program, and it is not a program that is like, coming from a particular organization. I think that the OIM provides kind of a neutral background for this type of engagement. And I certainly encourage any of the board members to come and sit through one of our programs, just so you can see, what the engagement is. Again, Nicole can.
Right. And Monitor Castle, I'm not questioning whether it should live, because I totally see the importance of it being housed at the OIM, but why isn't DPD paying for all of it is the question. And why aren't we pushing for them to pay for all of it when we're essentially doing training for them that is going to improve their outcomes, and when their budgets seem untouchable? Again, I'm not questioning that it should live within the OIM, but why aren't they paying for the whole thing? And why aren't we pushing for that?
If I can just quickly add just to that point, the issue around sustainability, is this something that just gets us through 26, and then are we going to have a similar challenge in 27? And I think more the reason, to Alfredo's point about pushing them to contribute to this when it's a benefit for them. But what is the sustainability of this program beyond 26?
Nicole, you're on mute.
Thank you. That's one of the things that I was going to raise, like all the things that Liz said, but also the fact that last budget cut, we had to eliminate our Denver Teen Empowerment Program. That was a program that was steeped in teaching youth civic engagement. And we exposed them to all the parts of law enforcement with a badge and without a badge, to encourage them to go to college, to make a difference. Here are the different ways that you can do that. So that's gone, and that can never come back because we don't have the money. So now we're trying to be creative to find a way to keep this program going. We're 10 years old. We're making a huge impact. And I agree with both of your comments. And I have often thought, if because we're such a small office and because we are independent, is there a better place for us to live? But I agree with what Liz is saying, that we're supposed to be neutral, right? We're supposed to be unbiased, just like our office. I feel like, and this program means so much to myself and my staff, we could maintain that neutrality regardless of where we were or who contributes. I often tell Liz that we do a great PR job for DPD, right? Because we make sure that these kids walk away. We're not hosting a kumbaya session and we don't sit around holding hands and making sure that they make a best friend. We're making sure that they have the tools so that we know that our kids of color can get home safely. And the flip side of that is we want to make sure that our officers get home safely. The sad part is this is Denver focused. And we have to tell our babies, right? They're in high school, but they're our babies, that this applies to Denver only. When you cross into Aurora, that it's, game on. Like, we can't help you, but at least to give your real name, to not run, to ask for an adult, to do all the things, to use the words. right? That we know will help protect you and get you there. So I'm 100% in agreement. I don't know where, if there's another cut next year, I don't know where Liz can pull money from. Like, it's almost like whittling away at OIM in its entirety, but I welcome any and all ideas on how to keep this program going. It is so important and so impactful.
Rufina?
Rufina, I know you have a question. I agree with you all, and I think that that's it. Right now, this is for 2026. We don't know what the 2027 landscape is going to look like. I was able to manage to get out of the budget a new monitor position, but only halfway through the year. We're down to the bone. Once we have no place else to go, and I think that is a conversation that we need. And I haven't heard it, not hearing it just from you. I've heard it also from City Council. So, Rufina?
Yeah, so Alfredo and Larry, the part that isn't in the DPD probably is more of what Nicole is talking about, the youth safety issue. Yes, it's important for them to train their officers, but it's also the know your rights piece for these youth is really, really critical, so that they do indeed hopefully really get steeped in what are the do's and don'ts of police interactions. I'm just curious, Nicole, have we ever sought local foundation funding for this program?
So thank you. That's a great question. When I came on in 2019, we were a fully budgeted program and we still had a couple of grants that were left over. And we closed those grants out with the full intention of never having to use a grant again, because my section of the office wasn't real grant familiar, and there may have been some real questionable, like, we don't really know what to do with this money. So we figured it was safer to eliminate it. With the current political landscape, right? There is no grant money out. Everybody's fighting for grant money right now. But foundationally, I don't know. I am hearing, because my ears to the ground, and me and my staff, we're constantly boots to the ground every day. Like, foundations are tapping out now with what they can give, but we're willing, to look at anything. And I think the point made, like, we're scraping, asking for $12,000 to run a program that is significant. I think that just based off my conversation, my interactions, I mean, Chief and I have talked about, in the past, what a great tool YOP is for DPD's benefit, right? And I run into officers all the time that, come to our forums and are really dedicated to our forums. And we run into youth that say, "Hey, lady, I did your program, miss. Do you remember me? I saw Officer Fuentes, and he actually stopped and talked to me, and it made me feel really good." We see the impact. It's just like, how do we keep it going? How do we get out of the box and become creative? Because it is obvious, it's beneficial to our youth, it's beneficial to community, and it's beneficial to DPD. So how do we find that fine mix of keeping us going?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, Nicole, that it feels like we're missing the mark. Instead of being over here thinking about where we're going to find $6,000 from, we need to be thinking creatively to push DPD and public safety to be funding this program while maintaining its independence, maintaining its neutrality. But yeah, I think we're missing the point when we're over here asking the COB for $6,000, especially without having a sustainability plan, and seeing how then this really important work keeps whittling down and whittling down and whittling down. We need to be thinking institutionally and strategically of how we're going to make sure that these programs aren't just sustainable, but finding ways to scale them and continue to expand them in light of in expanding public safety budgets.
And that's interesting that you raised that, because my team, along with the team from DPD, has already sat down and had session 1 with Peak Academy to brainstorm on, you know, can we gamify our program? Can we garner more interest from youth? How do we make it more marketable so more officers want to participate? How do we get, you know, we have probably about 50% attrition. Like, we might have 25 forums scheduled. We know out of that we're going to get 12, because it's like planning a party, right? You plan for more, you end up with less. And so we're looking at all these things. We're looking at sustainability. We actually wrote a mission and vision for our program, and you know, it was great. And we're not finished with them. We have like 4 more sessions to go with Peak Academy. But at the same time, after our first session, my team was like, "That was awesome. I hope we're not doing this for anything." You know, they're really impacted. Their hearts are hurting, right? They're just feeling really down, because this is what they do. Like, we live and breathe this. Any one of us can talk to you about our program for hours. And so finding a solution is really important to me, and not for us, right? We know the impact. We go to our babies' graduations. We go to their college graduations. We ask them to come back, right? We're doing a program tomorrow with Pastor Thomas Mays, our Building Bridges program, where one of our youth that's in college now in her first year is coming back to moderate. I mean, we see all of these things, and it's such an important program. I think, and I don't know, Liz, how you feel about this. I think an ask from Liz might be looked at sideways. I think if safety hears it, you know, from other voices, they may hear it more than just something that's coming from the monitor.
I don't know. I don't know that they're necessarily opposed to it. It's a conversation that needs to happen, you know, and we really didn't know exactly what, until the final budget was done, what our situation was going to be. I had guessed, I knew what I could give, or what was available to me in terms, you know, as opposed to laying off staff workers. So this is where we are now. But I agree. What is the plan for the future? How can we keep this sustainable and not find ourselves in this situation again?
So has the question ever been posed to DPD as to paying for the entire program?
I have not. I know that Councilwoman Gutierrez Gonzalez has raised the issue, and I would have to ask her if you know, whether she's had conversations with the chief about it.
Okay.
Well, more to discuss. I know a few of us have a hard stop here. Nicole, thank you for presenting this information, and COB, you know, clearly we'll need to find some more time to close out this issue, but appreciate the questions and dialogue today. And we will get back to the monitor's office on.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thanks all, and have a great day.
Same. Bye.
Thanks all.